Hey, welcome back to JG3 Reviews. My name is James, and today it is going to be a currently inked sort of a day, or really, maybe the most accurate way to put it is, what pens do I have freshly inked? Because I got several pens over here to the side that actually I've been either inked up for reviews or I've been using them for a couple of months, things like that, and they're about to get cleaned out. And then I've got some pens that you can see right here that I've had inked for just a couple of weeks or maybe even a month for one of them, and I'll get to those as well. But mainly, our focus is going to be on the pens in this pen roll, which is a Rickshaw Bagworks pen roll. Highly recommend them. Very, very good product. And these are all freshly inked. And there is something in common with all the pens that are in the pen roll today. These are all pens that I've owned for a long time. Anywhere from about, let me look, anywhere from about 3 years to 30, somewhere in between. Most of them to the 3 to 5 year range, I think. But one of them is 30 years old and still, frankly, looks brand new, even though I've used it for a lot of that time. So what I'm going to do is go through these pens one by one, tell you what I like about them, why I decided to get that pen back out of storage, and I'll do a very quick writing sample with each one so that you can see what ink I've got in them and how the nib writes. Now for the paper today, I'm just using leftover pages in what looks like a Hobonichi, but this is actually a Kinbor, and this also has some really nice paper for inks and things like that. And so I just decided to find some dates that I didn't use, which in my case means I was too busy to even get out the paper calendar and bother. I had nothing going on. It means I had so much going on, couldn't even take the time to sit down and write it down. That's when it gets real busy. Now, the first pen that I've got for you is a PenBBS, and it's a blingy pen. This is the model 499, and this is a heavy metal pen in that gold color, and really, really nice. Now, I am usually not somebody who likes this kind of a flashy gold pen. It's just a lot of bright work for me. However, I was interested in this pen when it first came out because of the finish with the wave work that I've got going on. I think that is really cool. On the grip section, it actually has a smaller version of a similar pattern, and it really works for making this metal grip section non-slip. This is a pleasant pen to me to write with. And I mean, it's when they decided that wanted to have that gold-plated look, they did it everywhere. I'm surprised the converter doesn't have it too, but it doesn't. But it's a nice pen, number 6 size nib, steel nib, and it is a fine. I've reviewed this pen before, so I won't go over all those details, but I do like it, and it's a neat pen. So why would I like it if I don't like gold blingy pens? Well, I do have a soft spot for the James Bond movie, The Man with the Golden Gun. That was the first Bond movie I ever watched that with my dad back when it was fairly new movie. And so, this just kind of reminds me of that, and that's what I like about it. This pen does not post. For some, that's a deal breaker. For some, they don't care. But I do like to tell you when that's the case. Again, that's the 499 with a fine steel nib, and as you can see, really writes nicely. The ink today is the Monteverde, and this is Jade Noir. It's kind of a green-black, as the name suggests, and it's an ink that I do really like. Now, since we've done gold, how about we do one that is silver, or at least in this case, chrome. It's not silver, obviously. This is the Asvine, and this is the V169. A skeletonized fountain pen with an acrylic barrel and cap behind that metal skeleton. It also has a good heft to it. That PenBBS pen is not a light pen. This is not either, but it is another pen that I would think that, I don't know, would I like that? Would I not like that? I do like this. It's a vac-filled pen. It does have a metal section, just like the other one. However, this one is smooth, but it has enough of a bell-shaped curve to that I don't find it problematic. It's not overly slippery. It is a fingerprint magnet on the grip section, but that's all right. Now, like the other pen, this one also doesn't post. Now, I do find, though, that it's a nice long pen, big enough for most hands. That skeletonized part of the body is not problematic. It doesn't bother me. Has a nice weight, very well balanced. I think I lifted there, but I don't know. Looks like it's flowing well. And it's also number 6 size steel nib. It's a fine. You will notice this one writes more finely than does that PenBBS, also steel. Ink today. What is that? It's black. And this is Waterman. I'm just going to put a W. This is intense black. My notebook's bouncing with me, so it's causing me to lift now and then. It's not the pen. Pen's flowing fine. And I find this to be a very pleasant, fine nib to write with as well. Nice flow, smooth, and it really likes this Kinbor paper. And this is a pen that I've been wanting to get out for months, and yet I kept pulling out other pens instead, and then I go, man, I forgot I wanted to get that V169. For like 3-4 months I've been doing this. So when I decided I was going to clean out the old pen case and start over, this one was front of the line. It's a fun pen. I like the style. And if memory serves, this is Asvine's, I think it was their first vac filler, I do believe. And man, they came out swinging because this is just an excellent pen. All right, moving away from metal pens for just a second. This is another pen that I've been wanting to get out for the past couple of months and put back in rotation. Anytime I put this pen away for a little while, I always miss it. This is the Ranga Abhimanyu. These are handmade pens from India, and this is one of the favorite acrylics for me that they make. They also have some beautiful brown acrylics. You know I like brown pens. You can see that mythos over here, and I haven't gotten one yet, but man, I window shop a lot looking at those. But they also have some great ebonite pens, and I ordered a what was that, the Ranga 5, really big pen in black ebonite, and that was for a giveaway. So if you're watching and you still have that pen, I would love to know what you thought of it. Mention that in the comments. Whoever won that pen, I'd have to go back and look and see exactly who won, but that pen was fantastic. It was such a good pen that after I reviewed it and sent it off to the winner of the giveaway, I have window shopped getting another one ever since. Just really cool. But the Abhimanyu, of course, is a smaller, more manageable pen, probably more likely to use that on a regular basis. And this one has a steel nib. I like these pens. Very good. That one does actually post. I guess I'll leave it there. Makes for a pretty good sized pen once you do. Not unbalanced. It's not too cap heavy. This has a 1.1 stub nib. I believe that's Yovo, if memory serves correctly. And you might have thought I was going for blue ink, but no. I did not. I needed a brown. And that pretty much took up all the room, didn't it? That's a 1.1 millimeter stub. The ink, wow, I wiped almost all of that off with my finger, didn't I? Still had a little bit of that intense black on my hand as well, it looks like. The ink is actually an FPR ink, and their inks are made by a family that has a small business here in the U.S., and this is their cinnamon brown. Let me just do this since I messed that up so you can get a more accurate shading of that color. Really nice, and I like that. Flows in this pen really well. Love the pen, and this is the first time I've inked up with their cinnamon brown, and I like that. That looks really good. The other inks in their series, especially the royal blue, and I think is it Neptune? I think it's Neptune blue, something like that. Really nice. I like them. All right, we'll go back to another metal pen. This is a very inexpensive pen, very affordable. The Hongdian C1, but don't let the low price fool you. This is a fun pen, and I was going through to get a couple of these other pens, and this caught my eye in the case, and I thought, yeah, I need to get that back out. Yeah, I need to get that back out again. That's a great pen. Let me tell you what I like about it. One, it's affordable, and around here, I like affordable pens. Obviously, I don't like just affordable pens, but I like affordable pens. I like a nice metal pen, and this has a very slick black finish that I like. It's really stealthy, and it feels good in hand. It's nicely done. I haven't had any problems either with any scratches or wear off of that. Now, I will say that this particular pen has been lightly used, but at the same time, when I do use it, it's in a case, it's bouncing around. It's not in this nice fuzzy case I have now. This is most often used in a case where there actually can be some pens kind of banging around and things like that. And no worse for the wear at all. I like it because it's a hooded nib, and I'm just a fan. The dimensions are very similar to Parker 51 when you're talking just about the grip section. And of course, the nib is so similar you could probably swap them. It does so very well, very nicely. And this pen does not have dry out problems. At least the one that I've got, that's not even something I have to think about. Now this is an extra fine I think you can see that. It's the Hongdian C1 Extra Fine, and that's a steel nib, obviously. For the money that you're paying, pretty much has to be. And the ink today is Diamine. I wonder if there are any guesses on which Diamine ink this is. Which red ink is this? Well, this is one that I actually hadn't used. I had the bottle months and months, maybe even a year, and for whatever reason, had not put it in a pen. I'm just going to go over here and give you a little more color there as well. And this is Diamine Crimson. I think that looks nice with that black pen. And you know, if you're really on a budget and you just want a nice pen that looks pretty slick, is fitting for a lot of different circumstances, and is a pleasant pen to write with, this is really a good one. If you don't like an extra fine nib, you can swap this nib. You can get Architect nibs. You can get mini Fude nibs that are really almost down to a Waverly style nib. You can get all kinds of things. You can upgrade this. Medium nibs, broad nibs, the whole bit. And some of those you can get for very little money and yet have a fun writing experience. This is a pen to check out if you're looking for a budget option that doesn't really look like it's as inexpensive as it is. Hongdian C1, it really does punch above its weight. Next is another pen that's really more affordable than that material looks like it ought to be. This is a Kaigelu, and this is the 356 model. I've had this for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, 6 years, and every time I look at this pen, I'm just amazed at how affordable it is for that resin. Just the acrylic they've used alone, really, really beautiful. And I like it. Now, it is not a high-end pen. This is an inexpensive pen, and the nib that comes in it is just kind of a normal nib, and I don't have the nib that came in it. I swapped that out. Well, what did I swap it for? Well, Kaigelu also makes Longblade nibs that you can swap into this pen, as well as some others. And this Longblade nib, I think, is just a lot of fun. So let's check this out. Again, this is the Kaigelu. I'm going to write those separately, those syllables, because that's the way they are on the trim ring. Don't know if they really ought to be. I usually type them all like one word. And it's the 356. And I'm going to put LB, but it's a Longblade nib. Also by Kaigelu, it is sold separately. Usually comes in two for about $12. You get 2 of those nibs. I think it's $12.99. Usually free shipping on that all the way to your door, which is really the only way to do shipping. I find when shipping only comes like part way to the door, really not that helpful. Recently I had a pen that came all the way from Germany, but then for some reason was delivered to Houston at a random address. Not cool. So all the way to the door. Highly, highly, highly recommend. What ink have we got here? Now that looks dry, but it never feels dry, not with this nib. And this ink is a very old bottle of ink that I have. And this is Birmingham Pen Company out of Pittsburgh. And this is their Electron ink. And I think this bottle of ink is about 5 or 6 years old, something like that. Now, in different nibs, this ink will show up like really, really bright. So I find this interesting, but this is the way that it's been writing no matter what paper I have. It just seems a little bit richer. Now, one other thing is that sometimes that ink has trouble bleeding through, but because one, this is really quite good paper, the Kinbor, and 2, the Longblade nib spreads it out in a more even coat, let's say. You just don't have the bleed through problems, and that was why I decided to put that ink in this pen. 1, I think that complements very well, but 2, I just thought that blade might make the ink behave a little bit better, and thus far, it absolutely has. The Kaigelu 356 with a Longblade. That is just a fun pen. Fun to look at, fun to write with, and then fun to tell people how little you paid for it. So what's the last pen in the bag? This is an emotional pen, a sentimental pen. My wife bought me this pen 30 years ago. We lived in Perm, Russia at the time, and this and 2 other fountain pens were at the import store, an import store called the Stomatrovka, which literally just means 100 meters. It was called the 100-meter store because that's how long it was. We were walking through the Stomatrovka one day, and I admired the fountain pens, and my wife ended up buying this for me for my birthday. And I thought that was awesome, and I've kept this pen forever. It is a beautiful blue. I mean, you know why she thought I might like it. I usually am not a thin pen person, but it is a really nice blue. It's a Sheaffer, and my first fountain pen that I can remember was also a Sheaffer. So, there's just some coolness about it that is beyond the pen. But I gotta say, this pen, 30 years old, looks brand new despite its use, and it still writes well. Now, I did do several years ago just a little bit of tuning, the first tuning I ever did on a nib, and thankfully it worked out well. There's an irony, but to me, writing with a Sheaffer Fashion II, and that is that I don't care about fashion at all. You knew that already because sometimes I'm in front of the camera, you know? Anyway, that doesn't bother me. Judge all you want. I don't care. Anyway, this is the Sheaffer Fashion II, and the ink is kind of a little bit of a mix, I think. So what I inked it up with is my Monteverde Blue Skies, which I think usually looks different. I'm thinking there was a little bit of the black ink still in the feed, even though I cleaned it out. There was just a little clot or something, and so the first bit of this is writing more like a blue-black. It's starting to get lighter, but it's writing like a blue-black, and eventually it'll look like Blue Skies. But anyway, it doesn't bother me. You can see the medium nib. I forgot to tell you that part, didn't I? It's a medium. I'm just going to write right over that calendar. That'll drive somebody nuts, and that's fine. That's good. Anyway, that's the Sheaffer Fashion. Obviously, you'd have to buy this vintage now because it's from 30 years ago, but it's one that you can usually find at a fairly affordable price, like on eBay, and mine has held up very, very well. And funny enough, with all of these pens, this is the one that I've had out this week that somebody walked by and went, "Oh, I like that pen." So, you know, hey, sometimes it's not the pen you're chasing down, it's the pen you've always had. Just remember that. That can apply in a lot of ways. Now, what else do I have inked up? I said that I had some other things. Well, you see them. These are my out of the pen case pens. So let's just do a quick rundown of these too. I'm going to make this fast. So this one of my favorite brown pens, the Visconti Mythos. I get asked every now and then, do you still have that pen? By a few different people. And yes, I do. I like this pen, and this ink today is, I have too many inks. I should be switching fingers. This is Diamine Syrah, another really nice red ink. Obvious where it gets its name from. I love this pen. I love the snick of that magnet cap. The brown acrylic is absolutely just one of my favorites. Just really, really pretty. Really, really like that pen. Then you know that I have inked up a Pelikan if you're a watcher of the channel, because I've had this out a time or two here lately. I just had it in the review of Pelikan Dark Green, which means I've also just told you what ink is in it. So this is the Pelikan. It's an M200. And I bought this. I mentioned this before. I bought this on eBay from an estate sale and got just a wonderful, wonderful deal. And this is different finger, dark green. Or, if you prefer the original German name, Dunkelgrün, one of my favorite greens. Check that ink review out. I just put that out a couple of weeks ago. Wonderful pen. I know people tend to chase down those larger Pelikans, and sometimes there's a reason, you know, it's the gold nib and the special materials, and maybe even just you prefer a larger pen, but don't overlook the M200. These are wonderful pens, and their short stature actually means they are handier for more pockets, pen cases, and things like that. And also, unlike some other Pelikans, you might not cry as much if something happens to it, but really, really beautiful pens. I really like that one. This particular one is a steel nib and a medium. Really, really enjoy it. And then the other pen. This is one I've never featured here on the channel, even though I've had it for years now. I don't remember how many, but I've had it for years. So far back that you could actually order a pen straight from Japan, and the shipping was reasonable. I looked at the same company that I bought this pen from, Pensachi, yesterday, and good night, raised the cost of a pen by a full third or more. But this is, got a dirty nib going on there. This is the Pelikan, and I'm going to abbreviate, Custom Heritage, and this is the 912, and this has the FA nib. That is a 14 karat gold nib, and yes, it does have lots of spring to it. I'll show you a little bit more here in just a second. The ink is, I'm just going to put blue black, and I really like Pilot's blue black. It may be a more basic ink, but it's a really nice one, I'm telling you. I'm probably going to do a comparison of my favorite blue black inks. I think I've mentioned that before. I need to get on it, don't I? So yeah, it doesn't take much to get some really nice line variation, see? And really, really like this pen. I'll save a longer writing sample for the test, but it's not just the nib. The nib is fantastic. The build quality of this pen as a whole is really nice, as you would expect from Pilot. But I don't know, there's something of a sweet spot with this pen. If you like a classic black pen, and I like a classic black pen with silver trim, this one, it's, for me, honestly, I'm going to measure all the others by it. I like it. It's just right. It's my Goldilocks pen in terms of the form of the pen, even before you get to the nib. And in the nib, it took me a little bit of getting used to, but part of that was finding paper that the nib likes. But I really, really enjoy it. And so there you are. Those are my few of my currently inked pens along with my freshly inked pens. What do you have inked up? Share that in the comments below. If you've got another recommendation for one of these pens, what you think would have been the ultimate pen and ink pairing, share that. You're not going to hurt my feelings any if you picked a different ink. So share that. I'm curious. Maybe you'll inspire my next fill up with one of these pens. In the meantime, God bless you. Have a really great week.